Kirk to Rayborn, report. I'm required to make a security confirmation. When I call my ship, if you list your personnel, cargo requirements, any special needs.
Star Trek has always been more than just science fiction entertainment. Since its debut in 1966, the franchise has used a vast canvas of space exploration to examine difficult questions about society, morality, and human nature. Gene Roddenberry's vision was deliberately provocative, designed to challenge viewers and push against the comfortable boundaries of television storytelling. While this boldness helped establish Star Trek as groundbreaking television, it also meant that certain episodes crossed lines that networks, censors, and international broadcasters weren't willing to accept. Over the decades, several Star Trek episodes have faced restrictions, cuts, or outright bans in various countries. These weren't minor edits or scheduling changes. Some episodes were pulled entirely from broadcast rotations, deemed too disturbing, too violent, or too controversial for audiences. The reasons varied from graphic content to psychological horror, from challenging social taboos to depicting scenarios that regulators felt crossed ethical boundaries. What makes these bans particularly fascinating is that they reveal as much about the societies that rejected them as they do about the episodes themselves. This exploration examines 3 Star Trek episodes that face significant censorship or bans, understanding why they provoke such strong reactions and what they tell us about the series' willingness to venture into uncomfortable territory. The original series episode, Miri, presents one of the most unsettling premises in early Star Trek. When the Enterprise responds to a distress signal, the landing party discovers what appears to be an exact duplicate of Earth, abandoned and silent. The crew finds empty streets, deserted buildings, and an eerie atmosphere of a civilization that simply stopped. The horror begins gradually. A disease, disfigured man attacks the landing party before dying convulsions. Then children emerge, frightened and hostile, calling the adults grups and viewing them with suspicion and fear. These aren't ordinary children. They're the survivors of a catastrophic medical experiment gone wrong, a failed attempt at life extension that instead created a deadly plague. The twist deepens the disturbing nature of the story. These children are actually centuries old, aging at an incredibly slow rate while maintaining childlike minds and emotions. They've survived in this abandoned world, playing games among the ruins, while every adult around them succumbed to madness and death. When the landing party begins showing symptoms of the same disease, marked by purple lesions on their skin, the children recognize the signs. They know what comes next: insanity, violence, and death. What makes Miri particularly uncomfortable is how it portrays children. The episode doesn't present them as innocent victims requiring rescue. Instead, it shows them becoming a dangerous mob, driven by fear, jealousy, and mob mentality. They steal the crew's communicators, cutting off their connection to the Enterprise. They kidnap Yeoman Janice Rand. They swarm Captain Kirk in a scene of overwhelming violence that leaves him bloodied and desperate. The episode forces Kirk to reach these children not through strength, but through harsh reality. He tells them bluntly that without adult help, the youngest among them will die helplessly when the disease inevitably strikes. It's a moment of brutal honesty directed at children who have never truly had to face adult responsibility despite their centuries of existence. The BBC aired Miri once in 1970 and immediately received complaints. The episode was subsequently removed from repeat broadcasts for years. The concern centered on the disturbing imagery of disease, violent children, and the overall dark tone that seemed inappropriate for family viewing. British television standards of the era were particularly protective of content involving minors, and Miri violated those standards in multiple ways. Beyond the surface-level concerns about depicting children in violent situations, the episode tackles uncomfortable themes about aging, mortality, and the loss of innocence. The children of this world are trapped in a perpetual adolescence, never growing up, but also never fully understanding the adult world they're forced to navigate. Their violence stems from fear and misunderstanding, but that doesn't make it less disturbing to witness. The episode also touches on medical ethics and the consequences of scientific experimentation. The plague wasn't a natural disaster, but the result of scientists attempting to extend human life without fully understanding the implications. This cautionary tale about the dangers of tampering with human biology resonated differently in different eras, but the core message about scientific responsibility remains relevant. Plato's Stepchildren occupies a unique place in television history, remembered primarily for a single moment that changed American broadcasting forever. The episode features Captain Kirk and Lieutenant Uhura forced by telekinetic aliens to kiss, creating what is widely recognized as the first interracial kiss on American scripted television. The context of the kiss matters enormously. Kirk and Uhura aren't expressing mutual affection. They're being controlled like puppets by the Plutonians, a society of humanoids who model themselves after ancient Greek culture and possess powerful psychokinetic abilities. The aliens force the Enterprise crew members to perform humiliating acts for their entertainment, removing all agency and dignity from the officers. This forced nature of the kiss was actually crucial to getting it approved. Network executives at NBC understood that showing the kiss as involuntary, as something the characters were compelled to do against their will, would make it more palatable to conservative audiences who might object to depicting an interracial romance as natural or positive. The irony is striking. A groundbreaking moment in representation was only acceptable because it was presented as forced rather than chosen. NBC's concerns focused primarily on Southern television stations. Network executives worried that local affiliates in states with strong segregationist sentiment would refuse to air the episode or face advertiser boycotts. The fears proved largely unfounded. When the episode aired in November 1968, there were remarkably few formal complaints. Most American viewers either didn't object or chose not to voice their objections publicly. The reaction in the United Kingdom told a different story. When Star Trek reached British television, the BBC chose not to broadcast Plato's Stepchildren at all. The official explanation cited the episode's violent content, pointing to scenes where Kirk and Spock are forced to fight each other and humiliate themselves for Plutonians' amusement. However, many observers believe the real concern involved the interracial kiss, suggesting that British broadcasters worried about conservative audience reactions despite the UK's different racial dynamics compared to the American South. The episode's significance extends beyond that single kiss. Plato's Stepchildren explores themes of power, dignity, and resistance against tyranny. The Plutonians represent a culture that has become stagnant and cruel, using their abilities not for advancement, but for petty entertainment at others' expense. Kirk's ultimate victory comes not through superior strength, but through finding the source of Plutonians' power and threatening to share it with others, democratizing what they hoarded. Nichelle Nichols, who portrayed Uhura, later revealed that both she and William Shatner deliberately sabotaged takes on an alternate version of the scene that NBC requested as insurance. The network wanted footage where the kiss didn't actually occur, allowing them to use that version if audience reaction proved hostile. Nichols and Shatner recognized the historical importance of the moment and ensured that the only usable footage showed the kiss clearly, forcing the network to use it. The episode aired during a period of intense racial tension in America. The Civil Rights Act had been passed only 4 years earlier in 1964, and Martin Luther King Jr. had been assassinated just months before the episode's broadcast in April 1968. In this context, showing a black woman and white man kissing on television, even under forced circumstances, carried enormous symbolic weight. The original series episode, Whom Gods Destroy, plunges the Enterprise crew into a nightmare scenario at a psychiatric facility. What should be a routine medical delivery to Elba 2, the remote asylum for the criminally insane, becomes a hostage situation when the inmate sees control of the facility. The episode's central antagonist is Garth Vizar, once a celebrated Starfleet captain who achieved legendary status for his tactical brilliance and heroism. Now completely insane, Garth believes himself destined to rule the galaxy. He's gained the ability to shapeshift, transforming into anyone he chooses, making him extraordinarily dangerous. When Kirk and Spock arrive, they're immediately captured and subjected to psychological and physical torment. Garth's madness manifests in disturbing ways. He doesn't simply want to escape or seek revenge. He wants to break Kirk's spirit and prove his own superiority. The episode features scenes of manipulation, torture, and sudden violence that push the boundaries of what television could show in the late 1960s. In one particularly shocking moment, Garth kills another inmate simply to demonstrate his power and willingness to murder without hesitation. The climax involves Garth using his shape-shifting ability to impersonate Kirk, creating a situation where Spock must determine which captain is real. The tension comes not from action, but from the psychological warfare, as both Kirks try to convince Spock of their authenticity. Spock's ultimate solution relies on his deep knowledge of Kirk's character rather than any simple test or code word. The BBC deemed Whom Gods Destroy too disturbing for British audiences, particularly younger viewers who might be watching during family viewing hours. The combination of mental illness, torture, casual murder, and psychological manipulation created an atmosphere of sustained menace that regulators felt crossed acceptable lines. Unlike episodes that featured brief moments of violence or controversial content, Whom Gods Destroy maintained its dark tone throughout, offering little relief in the oppressive atmosphere of the asylum. The episode raises uncomfortable questions about mental illness, criminal justice, and the treatment of the insane. The Elba 2 facility represents an attempt at humane treatment, providing advanced care rather than simply imprisoning the inmates. Yet the episode shows this compassionate approach failing catastrophically when someone like Garth manipulates the system. It doesn't offer easy answers about how society should handle dangerous individuals who are also clearly mentally ill. Garth himself embodies tragedy. He was once everything Starfleet valued: brave, intelligent, capable, and dedicated. His fall from hero to madman demonstrates how fragile the human mind can be and how completely mental illness can transform someone. The episode doesn't mock or demonize Garth's condition. Instead, it treats his madness as genuinely tragic while not excusing the violence he commits. Examining these 3 episodes reveals patterns in what made Star Trek content unacceptable to censors and broadcasters. First, all 3 episodes feature scenarios that create sustained discomfort rather than brief, shocking moments. Miri traps the crew in a situation with diseased, violent children for the entire episode. Plato's stepchildren subjects Kirk and others to prolonged humiliation and forced actions. Whom Gods Destroy maintains an atmosphere of menace and madness from beginning to end. Second, these episodes challenge social comfort zones in specific ways. Miri forces viewers to see children not as innocent but as potentially dangerous. Plato's stepchildren breaks racial taboos even while presenting the interracial contact as forced rather than chosen. Whom Gods Destroy depicts mental illness and violence in ways that offer no easy resolution or comfortable distance from the horror. Third, the episodes avoid simple moral conclusions. They don't present clear heroes and villains or offer neat solutions to problems they raise. The children in Miri aren't evil, just frightened and misguided. The Platonians in Plato's stepchildren represent not pure evil, but corrupted power and stagnant culture. Garth, in Whom Gods Destroy, is simultaneously victim and perpetrator, his madness both explanation and tragedy. These banned or restricted episodes represent Star Trek at its most daring. Gene Roddenberry's vision for the series explicitly included using science fiction as a way to explore contemporary issues that might be too controversial for direct examination. By setting stories on alien planets or in the distant future, Star Trek could address racism, war, authoritarianism, mental health, and social change while maintaining plausible deniability about directly commenting on current events. This approach occasionally backfired, creating episodes that went too far for the comfort of network executives, censors, or international broadcasters. Yet these moments of controversy also demonstrate Star Trek's commitment to meaningful storytelling over safe entertainment. The franchise earned its reputation for tackling difficult subjects precisely because it was willing to face the consequences of challenging audience expectations and social norms. The bans also revealed changing standards over time. Episodes that were deemed too disturbing for 1970s British audiences eventually received broadcast decades later, suggesting that social attitudes evolved. Content that shocked viewers in one era became acceptable in another, demonstrating that the lines being crossed were cultural constructs rather than absolute boundaries. Today, these once-banned episodes are available through streaming services and home media, allowing new generations of viewers to judge for themselves whether the content truly warranted censorship. Modern audiences, accustomed to far more graphic content in contemporary television, may find the restrictions puzzling. Yet understanding why these episodes provoke such strong reactions provides valuable insight into both the societies that ban them and Star Trek's enduring willingness to challenge viewers rather than simply entertain them. The Star Trek episodes that face bans or significant restrictions weren't mistakes or embarrassments of the franchise. They represent Star Trek fulfilling its core mission: using a lens of science fiction to examine humanity honestly, including our darkest and most uncomfortable aspects. Miri forced viewers to confront childhood innocence lost and the horror plague. Plato's stepchildren challenge racial boundaries, even within a context of coercion. Whom Gods Destroy explored madness and violence without offering easy comfort. These episodes remain significant not because they were banned, but because they demonstrate the power of storytelling, provoke, challenge, and disturb. They show a franchise unwilling to play it safe, committed to exploring difficult territory even when facing institutional resistance. The fact that censors and broadcasters found them too controversial only confirms that Star Trek was achieving exactly what Roddenberry intended, holding up a mirror to society and daring audiences to look at what they might prefer to ignore. Understanding why these episodes were banned helps us appreciate both how far social attitudes have evolved and how Star Trek contributed to that evolution by refusing to accept comfortable boundaries as permanent limitations.